Now, welcome back. You are still watching Morning Rush, and today we have an incredible book that we are kind of discussing with Audrey. Audrey, good morning to you.
Good morning, Marisa. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Blue is the new thing, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
We're always on point
100%.
like that. Right, now today we're doing a book, Rediscovering Deep Hope Against All Hope. So for me, but when I read this, my first thing was obviously a scripture that came into my mind that says, hope deferred makes the heart sick. So hope is something that it's like you fight for it. It's a fight to kind of contain that hope. And Reverend Preston Majoni talks about that in many different scenarios. Now, tell us about his journey. First of all, who is he?
Okay, I like how you actually got it. Even the title, Rediscovering Deep Hope Against All Hope. So it clearly states that you actually have to fight for it, because it's there, but it's not always easy to grasp and walk in it. So Reverend Preston Majoni is a pastor in the United Methodist Church. He's the Zimbabwe East Annual Conference chairperson. He also manages Marange District Connection Ministries Director and the station chairperson of Marange Mission Center. He's married to Patricia and they're blessed with 3 children. So even from his profile, I mean, even from the cover, it's, you're just looking at that man with stature, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
But then the book, when you delve into the book, he was just vulnerable.
Wow. This is one thing that you were talking about, because he uses his life situations, things that he's gone through.
Yes. And so looking at him, you would think, oh, he's just going to regurgitate the scripture, like what we're always discussing. Yes, he puts scripture here and there, but he talks about his personal journey, and he puts his heart out there and is speaking to people, even to the man, because there's a whole chapter where he talks about Mujolo. You know how on social media we all joke about Mujolo, the relationships. But in this chapter, he talks about how, as women, it's acceptable for us to meet over coffee and cry.
And talk about relationships. This guy did this, that.
And then we comfort each other. And then after a season, we're done with it. But for men, they can't go out and talk about it. It's sort of considered taboo. So he even
I remember a friend of mine, he's a guy, and he was talking about a heartbreak that he was going through. But there was like, I'm not going to number 3 years. We've been together 3 years, and that was that. There was no delving into, hey, are you okay? Have you spoken to someone about it or whatever? So I understand what he's talking about. They don't talk about.
And he even put this in Sean. I think people actually resonate with this. Kufakwe murume kubudahura. So this is what is thrown around on the street, that you need to you need to be masculine, but he's saying you don't have to do this. You need to talk about it, get help, go for counseling, talk to other people, and you get help.
And he also touches on a very strong topic, really, that is happening around, which is suicide. And suicide, mental health. I mean, we talk about mental health issues and stuff. Can you maybe tell us about his journey with suicide?
Okay, so first and foremost, this book, he put a lot of references. So as you can tell from his profile, he's someone who's actually educated as well, and has done other things besides being a theologian. So he's got 8 pages of references. I found that fascinating. That's why I'm mentioning it. So his book, he did a lot of research for his book. And he also shares a testimony on how the laptop which had his book actually crashed before he had taken it to the publishers.
Wow.
And he had to redo it.
To rewrite the whole book?
Yes, he had to redo it. So even this hope chapter then spoke to him during this season when I was redoing his book. So he talks about, there's one chapter where he talks about suicide. He talks about all the statistics, WHO. I think suicide is the number 4 cause of deaths. And funny enough, we always think it's women with the highest suicide rates, but it's actually men from the statistics he shared. And he talks about his own personal journey while he was going to college, where there was an incident at home, and he ended up being chased away from that home. And he actually went and bought rat poison. So he shares his own story. And he took the rat poison, and he shares how he thought he was just going to die like that. But it took a while, and then he became sick. He had to knock on his mom's door. They had to take him to the hospital, and then he survived after that. So he shares that personal journey with a plea to everyone to say, you know what, whenever you feel that hopeless and that despair is just camouflaging your judgment and everything else, there's always hope. There's always hope of Christ. You can talk to counselors, you can talk to other people, but there's always hope.
I suppose hope is kind of interconnected with faith. You know, you have to have faith to know that, okay, I can get through this, or I'm going to fight through this, or whichever it is. Because it also talks about a state of vulnerability, as you said, vulnerability. But bringing it back to society, Audrey, are people vulnerable enough to really be fighting this, and what really can be done? I mean, I know we always talk about it and stuff, and talking about things and putting it out there is great, but then I feel like it's like a lost cause sometimes.
You actually hit the nail on the head there, Marisa, because in one of the other chapters, he talks about how faith is connected to hope, like you're saying, and you have to fight for it. Versus, and understanding faith, I think versus what the world has put faith as. For some people, some churches, it's about things, material things, you know?
Yeah.
I've heard people saying, I was praying for a car. You don't pray for a car, from what I know. You pray for your soul to connect with God.
That's
but,
it, yeah.
But now faith has been, substituted to mean something else. But it's not that, like you're rightly saying. So he does talk about it. And one quote from the book where he states that hope is the willpower to change and the way power to bring about that change. So there's a willpower, and then there's the action part of it.
Right.
You know, faith without action is dead.
Yeah. That's brilliant. Look, we've run out of time, but, I know even when you came in here, you're like, you know what, this book has actually helped you. You could jumpstart, so I think this is a book that we can all read, but where do we find it and how much is it?
It's $10, chete. You can find it at Innovate bookstores and in Mutare at St. Peter's United Methodist Church. He's on social media, Majoni Preston on Facebook, Instagram, Rev Majoni Preston, TikTok, Rev Majoni Preston.
Wow. I like this book. It says that, number four points just before we close quickly. It says, hope can be broken, hope can be reframed, hope can be put to work, and hope can be spread. So I know he's spreading hope through this book.
Yes.
And stuff. So this is great. Reverend Preston Majoni, thank you so much for really giving us this tool to help us through these tough times, mental health issues, suicide issues. But thank you so much for jotting it down and leaving it out there for generations to come to actually have a look at it. And Audrey, thank you so much for bringing it so that we could discuss it and put it out there.
Always a pleasure.
Absolutely.